Hey guys, ECRG here, back with another episode. Today I've got a very, very special guest with us today, Dan Sfera with the Clinical Trials Guru. Thank you so much for being here today, Dan. How's it?
Thank you. It's very hard not to say your name. It's
You've got
thank you,
to you
ECRG.
got to say ECRG. You've got to say
Hey
ECRG.
guys, ECRG here, back with another episode.
Thank you so much for being here today, Dan. I know a lot of people have probably, or maybe they haven't yet, but they have seen what we did on your channel a couple weeks ago. That nice little interview. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out. We'll be talking slightly different topics today, but still, we're going to be talking a lot about clinical research, obviously. So first off, I know you recently moved. How's everything going with the move?
Oh
Um,
man, yeah, it's been tough. It's been tough. I mean, I guess there's better things to complain about than my move, but yeah, it was not the smoothest experience. But we're starting to recover.
are you all packed? Are you all everything out of the boxes now, or
No.
okay?
That's the thing. When you live somewhere for like 13 years, you just accumulate a lot of things you don't want. And so now this weekend we got to go through what we're actually going to keep and what we're not going to keep. So yeah, it's hard to say goodbye to certain things.
I hear that. I moved actually last year, and I still have a couple boxes lying around with stuff.
Yeah, they're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it might signify that you really don't need that stuff in those boxes, though.
I think so. Like even what we have already have in the house, we've been here 2 weeks. Like I'm okay. I just have a little less clothes than I normally do, so I'm like recycling the same outfits over and over. But when you work primarily from home, I don't think it matters.
Uh huh. Exactly. Exactly. So speaking of the move, I've been following you probably 2014 heavy 2014
Wow,
until now. Heavy is when I
old
started
school,
following
man,
you.
old school.
Yeah, old school videos. Um, so why would someone who has a this big YouTube following and clinical research, you've got a few sites in the California area, not to mention doing all this contract CRA and academy and stuff. Why would someone move? Why would someone like you decide to just up and move and potentially leave all that behind?
That's a good question. A couple reasons. So the pandemic really, I think I didn't expect this, but I just started seeing, okay, well, I'm working from home more now. And then it started turning into, all right, well, the sites here in California are less important because they're being managed day to day by someone else. I typically only get involved when there's issues like we need a new PI. So we just got a new PI at one of my sites. I'm very bullish on that site again. We're about to open another clinic, risk free, relatively risk free. We can get into that too. So I'm going to be going back and forth to LA a lot. I'm only 3 hours and a half drive from LA, but I'm
Okay.
technically in Arizona. I'm in the middle of the desert out here. California is 15 minutes away from me, the border, and then the Mexican border is 20 minutes away from me. And I'm like in the hills, in between all this stuff is my house. Like I'm way out of the city.
So how do you like that? Do you like it?
I
I mean, I
like
guess
it
you're relatively
surprisingly.
new.
I've always been a city guy, but I went to school in U of A, uh, in Tucson, so like I'm very familiar with Arizona. My wife's family is from here. It's not like a random place we picked. My wife's family is from here. We are thinking of finally having kids, and it was very important with all the work I do that we have a support system here that we can tap into.
Yes.
So this is back to your first question, why I moved out here. There's a number of reasons. Taxes was one. The pandemic was another one. Taxes was a big one. That was like the main catalyst.
So
It
you're only
was
worried about
taxes.
that if you're making a lot of money. So that's what that means.
Well, yeah, yes, there's a tax bracket. You don't need to make a lot more than what I was making to jump a tax bracket. And if I would have known that in hindsight, I would have made less that year. So I
Right.
was like, okay, maybe Arizona's not a bad idea.
Right. Yeah, that's a big thing. I know a lot of people were trying to move out of California during the
Yeah,
pandemic.
California's got its own problems too. I mean, not to get into politics, but and I'm a libertarian. I'm independent, registered independent. I've never voted president-wise for any Republican or Democrat. I've always voted independent. I've voted the always the Green Party or the Libertarian parties
Uh-huh.
my entire life. But there's a lot going on in California where it's gone, I think, a little too far left, and I think there's a lot of pushback. So it'll be interesting to see. The plan is to go back in 5 years. And honestly, the plan wasn't to have a clinic here. Like, that wasn't one of the reasons why I came out here.
Hmm.
But as I was coming out here, I was like, look, there's no research out here. This is actually lines up perfectly with what we're doing with Latinos in clinical research. Like, it's exactly what I recommend people do if they want to start a site, go in a place where there's no competition. This is exactly like my own medicine. I was like, all right, maybe I need to do this. So
Right.
started from the ground up, started vlogging that recently. And yeah, I'm excited about that too. There's actually a lot of opportunities here.
So it's kind of like proving your own recommendations and what you tell your clients and students to do, but you're doing it in real time.
Basically, like if it was LA, I wouldn't do another site. It's just so many. There's not a need for another site. I don't think in a big city like that. I mean, yes, there's a diversity issue. We need more minorities in studies. The only way I think we're going to get that is to have more sites. So from that perspective, yes, no matter where you're at, I think the industry needs you if you have a patient database. I don't care what city you're in. Miami, LA, those are the two most competitive ones. But it's like a no-brainer when you come to a place like this, 200,000 people, so it's not a small city. But I mean, where I'm from, this is small, but
Right, right.
it's not like actually a small city. 200,000 people is not small, and no research, and like 60% Hispanic. So, and a big reason is I just didn't want to be bored either. Like, I like building, and I like challenges. I don't like managing. So I like to take something to where it needs a manager, and then someone like Chris comes in or someone like Monica comes in and kind of runs the show, and then I can go do something else. I'm always like looking for what's next, and I guess that's part of why we started a site out here too.
Okay. So is it the same, I guess, team that you had before in California working on you're building the site with, or?
Just me and Chris. We got a lot planned with Monica too. We got a site in LA that we're consolidating two smaller sites into a bigger site in LA.
Okay.
So we'll be doing some videos around that. And then we have our other site in San Bernardino, which we just got a new PI. So that's when I had to get involved. When one PI gets frustrated, hey Dan, we need a new PI. So I had to go out there and find one. I got a really good one, Dr. Z, Marco Zahedi. I
Uh-huh.
did a few videos with him. I got to do more. That guy's a go-getter.
He's hungry.
He's young. He's like 39, 40. He's exactly my age, and yeah, he's just starting. So that's a good clinic in San Bernardino.
Okay. So you said your one PI was getting frustrated.
Yes.
For those people that are, I guess anyone could benefit from this, whether you're at the site level, the CRO level. What kind of things would make a PI frustrated with the site? And then how do you determine what makes a good PI later on?
It's one of the hardest things, man. It's a complicated answer. It's like asking, what causes cancer? Because if you ask oncologists, there's like thousands of possible factors. So what
Right.
makes a PI get frustrated? Thousands of things. I think the site could not be doing well financially. The PI that's more obvious. The PI could get frustrated. In our case, that wasn't the case. The case was we were very stable and we were doing very well to the point where we bought a building. And that's another fact. I mean, things change when you start making money and then your partners start thinking, well, okay, why do I need to still be the PI? Because I think the PI sees, all right, Dan hired a replacement for himself, basically. Chris still does it, but he's not really day to day.
Hmm.
But me as the PI, I mean, I'm still have to do everything from day one, and that's a frustrating. That's getting frustrated because of success, not because of failure, which
Interesting.
I think people don't talk about enough. PI dissatisfaction can come from a lot of places.
Right. Well, that's interesting. You're talking about the success of the site
Yes.
caused the frustration, I guess, in hindsight. Um,
Yeah.
so was that something that you talk about? You guys being able to replace yourselves because of the I guess the money was able to support that. You're able to hire people to do the kind of
Right.
jobs that you were doing.
Right.
Is that something that eventually? I mean, obviously the PI still needs to be on the study, but hiring sub-Is to work on the study to kind of limit their load and
Yeah.
more coordinators, is that
Yeah.
something
But
that could have
guess
been
what?
done too? All right.
It could have been done, but here's the thing: it's much easier to get someone and train them to be a coordinator than it is to get someone to be a psychiatrist. I
Right.
mean, your pool of talent is like
Way
a
less.
handful. And then if all handfuls say no, what are you gonna do? I mean, you're gonna keep doing the business, right?
Right.
So that that's something that I think a lot, and not enough site owners think about. And by the way, we're still doing studies with this PI, but we do have another one, and we kind of made two separate companies in one at one address because it's a building we own.
Right.
So all the psych stuff we still do with our current business partner on one business, and then all non-psych studies we're doing with our new PI, Dr. Z, who's a go-getter. But I don't think it's necessarily anyone's fault of what happened. I think it's just mature. I don't know if it's maturity. It's just the way businesses evolve. I
Right.
mean, it's hard to pinpoint. You know, when you have four owners, a lot of dynamics are there.
Okay. Okay. That's definitely good because a lot of people, a lot of these influencers and quote unquote gurus all over Instagram, they only talk about the good stuff, right? They
Oh
talk about
yeah,
the
on the private
highlights.
jet, on the private
Exactly.
jet. You know what? The closer to reality is, and we never made money to have private jets, but we bought real estate. Like, success can be equally bad for the company or for the partners as failure. I mean,
Uh,
at least in the failure, you guys are all failing together. But with success, now you start breaking down. Okay, maybe everyone's making the same amount of money, but now you start looking closer. Okay, well, who's doing the work, and why are we sharing it if I'm doing like 35% and he's only doing 15?
right.
So this is why I always say never rely on just one PI. Never. Never. Always, even if they're a partner, things can happen. I mean, frustration, like maybe it's not even like a breakup. Maybe they get sick. One of my current PIs, she got breast cancer, man. And
Wow.
I mean, and we have a really good relationship with her. And I mean, she's not talking much about it, but so we have to speculate. But, we have to merge that site. It's a very small site with our other small site with another PI, and then there's a third one into a bigger one in LA. So that's the one you're gonna see on some videos here and there.
Okay.
That's my reason for going to LA every month. When
I
I
see.
get bored of Arizona, I'll just go out there.
Okay. Um, that's good to know. So I know one of the things that you are advertising a lot in your programs is the ability to get on-site, actual hands dirty kind of experience.
Yeah.
Is that something you're still able to provide right now with the new site?
Yes. Since the pandemic, we have not had any intern physically come in to
Okay.
this day. We've done everything remotely, and it's actually even better because you don't have to pay for a flight and a hotel and all that stuff. And it's a breast cancer study, which we only started offering that right around the pandemic, actually, like a little before the pandemic. So you basically can do more internship without traveling by doing our breast cancer study. They're basically junior CRAs doing IMV reports,
Okay.
but instead of like doing one IMV report for all the patients, because we have a lot of patients in this study, we do one IMV report per patient. That's the only difference between like what you do as a CRA when you go out and what our interns do is, hey, focus on patient 2. Your report is going to be all about patient 2. Your next one's going to be all about patient 3 and so on.
Okay. That's definitely good stuff. And of course, we all know this industry is all about experience. It's not really about your fancy degrees and all this stuff. It's all about experience. So really, I don't even recommend you spend a dime on anything unless they've given you experience.
Absolutely.
So
That's
that's
how to
why.
spot a scam. That's actually how to spot a scam in this industry is, dude, I saw like the other day, Monica sent me a link to some program I never heard of. Pay $300 and get certified as a CRA. That's nonsense. You and I know that's nonsense,
Yeah,
right? But somebody who's just learning doesn't know it's nonsense. They think that there's actually a certification.
you're right. I mean, I get emails all the time about what certification should I go get. And the reality is, you really just need experience. I mean, because they're going to give you all the certifications you need once you start working anyway.
That's right.
Um,
ACRP, they usually think ACRP and SOCR, but those places are not meant for entry level. Like they don't
right,
want to talk to you. They
right.
don't want to hear about you until you're like 2 or 3 years in.
Exactly. I mean, you can't even take the exam, I think, for one of them until you've had some years of experience.
Yeah, it's almost like it's an hour. At the time I looked, it's an hour. It basically translates into like 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know where people are getting this information from. I guess it's the marketing of these big companies, but
It's a bad word of mouth.
yeah.
There's good viral marketing and there's bad viral marketing. And in this case, I see a lot of this bad viral marketing. I also see a lot of scams where people are training CRAs and they're doing their CVs for them on companies that don't even exist, and they're putting like senior CRA on their resume, and then they come to me and say, "Hey, I just want to do your internship, but hear me out. Here's why. I don't need your academy because I'm a senior CRA. Here's my resume." So I used to get curious, so I would Zoom like we are right now,
Yeah.
and I would say, "Okay, well, what's 1572? What's IRB approval?" They're like, "Huh? What are you talking about?"
Right.
I'm like, "How are you a senior CRA? You don't know the
The
basics."
basics. That's the absolute basics.
I mean, senior, even like a clinical research assistant, first week on the job would know what that is.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of scams out here, and there's a lot of fake CRAs, but I think the companies are really starting to crack down on it now.
Yeah.
I know the
There's
company.
actually a list. There's a list of fake companies. It's a long list. I know this recruiter who told me that, and I'm like, hey, check if my company's on there. It's not. So far, it's not, but it's only a matter of time because what I started seeing, ECRG, I almost said your name. What I started seeing is on LinkedIn, this person who was interested in the CRA Academy messaged me. So I looked at their profile, and they put that they're a senior CRA for my company like on their LinkedIn. I told them, man, you're gonna get me blacklisted. Like, you can't do that. You need to take that off right away.
Right.
You can't be doing that.
That's messed up. They're about to
Yes,
get you
it
in
is.
trouble.
They are. It's a good thing I know a few recruiters, so if we do get on that list, they'll tell me, and then I can tell them, hey, no, no, take us off.
There you go. There you go. So let me ask you this: the pandemic obviously has been the talk of the town the past year and a half or so. And I think last time when we talked a couple weeks ago, we talked about it mainly from the CRO and sponsor side of things, how it was affected, and especially I'm a CRA, so I talked about it, remote visits and remote monitoring and that kind of stuff. But from the site's perspective, how did sites typically handle the change to the remote monitoring, less CRA monitoring on site, and even not even being able to go on site? How did your sites handle that? And then can you speak to largely like how sites, I guess, nationwide handled that?
Yeah, I mean, I think people started getting scared around March, panicking around April, May, and then June things started getting back to normal. But it was like a false hope because the second wave came, as
Oh
we all
yeah.
know,
Oh
in
yeah.
the winter. But since that June of last year, monitoring's back. Like, I mean, you go to sites now, right? Like
Most of them, yeah.
most sites, like the ones that won't let you in are usually the academic medical centers.
Yeah.
But the smaller sites, like the ones that I own or consult for, I mean, they prefer in-person visits, and they prefer the monitors to come in rather than the remote monitoring. It's almost 100% of the cases where they prefer that. So from June of 2020 till present, I think monitoring's back to normal, and sites only had to really adapt for like 3 months or so.
Okay. Did you notice any issues with like funding as opposed to like getting paid for in-person visits versus remote visits? Was there like a funding decrease or anything like
No,
that?
no. The budget stayed the same. So it was just, the monitor with SDV remotely as opposed to coming in. Usually sites get paid when the monitor SDV and then confirm the visits. So then that usually triggers a payment. So whether they do that inside or remotely, it doesn't really matter. But I do know a lot of sites requested a extra budget, extra overhead due to the extra cleaning that they had to do.
Oh, I
Especially
see.
in the midst of COVID. Like they had to hire professional, like medical grade cleaners. Um, the materials was more expensive, as you know. The materials harder to find.
Yep.
I mean, try finding Lysol or any hospital grade disinfectant
Yep.
in like April of last year.
Impossible.
Yeah, so they asked for increase in overhead, and I think a lot of the sites have been able to continue getting that overhead. Chris does most of the budgets, but I talked to him enough now, and definitely with my new clinic out here in Yuma, he's negotiating the budgets for us. So we're asking for, and we're taking all those precautions too.
Okay. That's good to know. Um, so I guess my next question would be 2021, I guess a lot of people might be scared to go out and start a site in the middle of
Mm.
COVID, um, or even
Yeah.
coming out of COVID. So is
Hmm.
starting a clinical site in 2021 for someone who doesn't have any background information about starting a site, is that still feasible in 2021 and beyond?
It's never been a better time. If there's the big if you're the right person to start a business, first of all, um, and if you're willing to like get a lot of rejection. But yes, the industry needs diversity. There's no possible way to get more diversity, more blacks or Hispanics or Asians enrolled in research outside of building research clinics in those communities. And so it's never been a better time for research naive physicians. Sponsors don't care if you're a new site, they care about your PI.
Right.
So at the end of the day, we're talking about research naive physicians here. If they're partnered with somebody who knows what they're doing, preferably a study coordinator, you could be successful. You just need the biz dev part taken care of. Like, you need to. This is what my live stream was this morning. You need to be on clinicaltrials.gov. You need to be constantly looking for study leads, what's new, networking with other sites, and just emailing like 10, 15, 20 leads a week, if not a day, until you start getting some studies. And then hopefully you have the patient thing taken care of, which is presumably why you're opening the clinic in the first place, is you have access to patients that the industry needs. So yeah, never been a better time, but also this is one of those businesses where it has so many moving parts. It's very easy to fail
Hmm.
and lose a lot of money very quickly if you don't know what you're doing.
So how much money do you need to start a site?
So it could range. Okay, my site in Yuma, I spent $100 on our logo, and I never do a logo first, but my wife insisted we'd get a logo. So I got a logo. I got a website, so that's $800. I got an email. My email was free through Squarespace. I got a
Okay.
free Gmail account for a year. I negotiated no rent with my PI, so zero. I will be the coordinator. I will eventually pay a coordinator $3,000 a month once we get our first study.
Okay.
So I paid almost nothing. Uh, Maybe the PI didn't have enough space, or maybe the PI says no, get your own place. That's a little riskier. You got to now take out a lease. Try not to ask for personal guarantees. You also need to buy the equipment, which, if you're using a doctor space, guess what? They come with most of the equipment you need,
Oh,
and they
okay.
let you use it. They even let me use their MAs. Like, hey, doctor, we have this patient here. I'm not going to draw the blood. Can one of your MAs do it? And they just go do it. I give them like $20 or bring them a Starbucks, like for a thank you. Thank you for the blood draw.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
So Okay, so you basically start. I mean, you're talking $1,000 or less here for a startup.
Right.
That's like insane for a business to have such low startup, especially one with the potential to be this successful.
Right. The thing is, you have to sell yourself to the doctor because I guarantee you this doctor would not have said yes if he can tell that I didn't know what I'm talking about. Like me 15 years ago, I don't think he would have said yes,
Okay.
right? He would have maybe charged me or maybe told me to like lease my own place right next to him and then he'll come. But I'm taking on more risk. So a lot of it has to do with your expertise. So if you're a CRA, you can leverage that expertise. If you're a coordinator, you could leverage that expertise and then you come across as knowledgeable. But if you're somebody who just like got the idea yesterday, I mean, you got to do your homework. You got to really know what you're doing. Like go volunteer at a site, go be a coordinator somewhere for 3 months. Just do something so that when you talk to these doctors that they're more inclined to say yes.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think definitely coordinator was probably the best fit to do
The
this because
best, the
even as a
best.
CRA, I mean, I don't think I could go run a site tomorrow. I don't think I could do
I
that.
think you could because I know you, but well, I know you well enough, I guess, to make that assessment. Like I'd bet on you, but there are some CRA. CRA is tricky, man, because CRA they're entitled, and not, I don't know about you. I don't think you're entitled, but a lot of CRAs are entitled. We get a lot of calls from CRAs that say, "Hey, I'm fed up with my job. I want to start a site. I saw Doctor So and So open a clinic, and they're doing well, and it's nothing fancy. I know all the regulations." Okay, yeah, you do, and you're a CRA, but have you ever been a coordinator? Have you ever like dealt with a patient when they don't feel like coming? Have you ever dealt with a patient's family when they don't feel like coming? Have you ever got through an SSV and convinced the other CRA that you're a right fit when your PI is research naive? Like those are things you got to do, and I don't think as a CRA you're prepared to do that because as a CRA you're taught to follow protocol and just be in this like little box.
You're right.
That's the
Especially
problem.
especially at a CRO where they're very very it's kind of like they're in the train tracks and they have to stay within the tracks.
Yeah.
Like they can't really go off of it, especially because they have at a CRO or like these large companies, they have other people to do their job. Now, maybe at like a small firm where you have to wear many hats, you might
Yes.
understand more of like startup process because I know for me, I only know about what's going on when I have to go on site and do a selection visit or an
Mm-hmm.
SIV. I don't really know about the stuff to get there necessarily, or I don't know deeply about it. I just know what I need to do to go select them to get into the study.
Hopefully they send you to select our site for the study.
uh, we'll see. You never know.
But yeah, CRAs is tricky, man, and you'll be surprised. I get tons of CRAs, cocky. I love CRAs, but the ones who tend to call me are like entitled. I know all this. Okay, then why don't you have a PI? Oh well, that's why I'm calling you. Well, okay, you need to find a PI. I don't know how I can help you. You need to have these conversations with it. It's not that easy. It's
Right.
not like your knowledge doesn't mean anything in the practical world. I mean, what are you going to do for that PI? What and then how are you going to get those patients? That's your knowledge your skill set has to change.
Right. But Dan, what I'm thinking is, so you starting this up with less than $1,000. But even if you had to pay him to use a room in his clinic, let's
Right.
say that was like $400 a month or something just to use that room.
Out here that'd be fair, yeah,
That's fair.
probably.
Okay, okay. 500. Let's say five hundred
In LA
dollars.
that's not fair.
Right, 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 right. It'd probably be triple that.
Yeah.
Let's just say $500. So even then, you're still only talking, $1,500 for the
Right.
startup fee for the first month, and then $500 a month after that.
Right.
So it sounds like you're getting a better deal out of this. But what does the PI get out of this?
The PI in my situation, the PI gets 20% of the gross revenue.
Okay,
So
a
my
revenue
current
share.
yeah, 20% of the gross, like off the top.
Okay,
Um that's what he's getting. I really want to make this PI a partner. And I think so a lot of my meetings lately, I've already convinced him to do it. we're applying for studies already. We're not even talking about that anymore. We're on the next phase. How do we do this study that we could potentially get? Where's the derm? I need a sub-I. I need an ophthalmologist. We're talking more like X's and O's at this point.
Right.
But I'm doing separate meetings with him and his partner on selling him the vision for why he should be a partner. Right? Because when you find somebody that good and checks all the boxes, it behooves you to partner with them. And yes, if you don't grow, he's going to make less as, like, let's say a 25% equity partner, because at that point you're only getting 25% of the profits,
Right.
as opposed to 20% of the gross.
Right.
Okay, but when you start selling him on the idea, well, 20 minutes away there's another city with an NP, we can get the same studies there, their doctors can do it. Now you're getting 25% off of that too. You don't even have to even ever go there. So now I'm selling him on the vision. That's the phase I'm in now. And I think it's working. I mean, he checks all the boxes. He's getting ready to retire, but a huge practice, open to easy to work with. He checks all the right boxes for me, but I still need to find more PIs. You know, like, don't ever depend on one. Even if that one is going to be your partner, find others. You know,
Right.
there's I mean, anything can happen. I told you about the PI I currently had that got breast cancer.
Right.
You know, that's life.
And Dan, you've been talking about that for years now. I remember
Yeah.
you back in 2017 talking about always have multiple PIs if you can.
And it's not easy to do, because even for me, like, I'm not actively searching for new PIs here yet, because I just got this guy.
Right.
Right. So I'm like I'm not in relax mode. My activities are geared towards getting studies now, as opposed to getting other doctors. But there's a nurse practitioner business partner who I've also sold the vision to, and he's looking at other doctors in even more underserved areas out here. Like, the outskirts of this small town is like really small border towns.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm in a small border town that's 20 minutes away from the border. We're talking 2 minutes from the border.
Wow.
The cities. So that's where we're gonna expand to out here.
So is the land cheap and the cost of living cheap out there too? Well, I guess everything's cheap
It
compared
used
to
to
LA,
be
but
compared to California, yeah. But you know what? My neighbor to the left, behind me, and this way, this one hasn't been built yet. They're all California.
yep.
All of them.
Yep.
And mainly, well, most of them for political reasons, but in my case, it was taxes first. It wasn't, honestly, it wasn't politics for me. It was taxes and the ability to
Opportunity.
have a support system for the family, and then the opportunity.
Yeah. That's awesome. So pivoting a little bit, we've talked a lot about how people can build a site, or something that they can look forward to, but that's not for people that, are just looking to get into the industry, or people that have only been in the industry like a year or two. That's kind of down the line a little bit.
Right.
So now let's talk about people that are trying to get into the industry. Now,
Yes.
of course, I learned a lot how to do that from you, watching those OG videos from 2015, 2016. And
Embarrassing. Embarrassing.
No, there's a lot of good information in there. And, I'm a segue into that, but people think just because the video is old that there's not good enough information in there. And I tell people all the time, go watch my old videos. Just because it was old doesn't mean the information is still not applicable today.
It might be better because it's more pure. You know, you maybe get polished later,
Yeah.
but it's more pure. Like, I was more in the trenches then. I'm getting back to that now with this site. So, yeah, you're right, though.
So what do you think is the number one best job for people that are trying to get into the industry? What do you think is the best job for them?
Easy. Anything where you can help a small site out. So most people, the reason I say that is because most people think the opposite. They're okay, like, let me go to Morehouse and apply as a coordinator, or Harvard. You guys think about that for a second. Like, those people could care less. All right, they're not looking to make profit. they some whoever's the decision maker there is taking a risk bringing you on. They're not going to do this. But a clinic like my clinic, for example, if somebody walks through the door and says, "Hey Dan, I will help you get studies. I watched your videos. I know how to do clinicaltrials.gov. I understand it's mundane, just emailing. I'll do that for you for free. If you get the study, feel free to pay me. In exchange, I want to gain some experience for my resume." Or maybe you don't like that. Maybe you're going to do community outreach for patients, helping the site get patients. Or maybe you're going to help the site reach out to more clinicians like I'm supposed to be doing right now. I'm supposed to be finding other doctors, but guess what? I don't have time. Somebody can help me do that in exchange for experience on your resume. Now, before you guys start emailing me, you got to be in Yuma, Arizona. You can't. I'm not going to do this if you're in Chicago. Okay, you got to be here in my town to do this. Another thing, social media marketing. A lot of my audience and yours, I'm sure as well, are younger demo.
Yep.
TikTok. If somebody came up to me and said, "I'll make a Instagram page for your site and I'll manage it for free. In exchange, I want to help you out. Whatever you're doing in research, I want to do that too to put on my resume." And guess what? Of course I would say yes, because I need that. Again, you have to be here. If you are here, let me know. Yuma, Arizona. And don't move here. Don't guilt me into hiring you, because don't do that either. You got to be here already. Guess what? 3 months of them doing this and them putting the experience on their resume, any site would want to take them on because they have experience. But you know what? If me as the site owner, if I put in all this time and they're managing my Instagram or my TikTok or whatever it is, and they kind of learn how to be a coordinator, guess who I'm hiring when I need to hire a coordinator?
There you go. That person.
But people don't do that, man. People go to UCLA and get their resumes like tossed in the virtual trash. People go, they think because it's prestigious, and then these small sites, you never heard of them. But guess what? Small is the new big. That's where you need to go.
Wow. Okay. So they should offer to work for free if possible.
If possible.
Now, as opposed,
I know for some people they can't do that. I understand that too.
Right.
It's a little harder.
Are you saying that they should do that when they could go get a job that pays them? Or are you saying in the event that they can't get one of those jobs, like, CTA coordinator or?
Yes, in the event that they can't. Of course, if you can go get a CTA job or a coordinator job, like, do that. I would even tell you, like, don't work for me for free when you could. Those guys will hire you. They're going to pay you.
Right.
But talk to me and come back in 6 months. If you're not happy, I'll hire you back. But
right.
Yeah, no, of course. If you've been reaching like dead ends and roadblocks, which a lot of people have, that's the route you should go. Even if you only have like 1 day a week to do it, it's still worth it. The experience on your resume is what matters, not con artist certifications on like Vimeo videos for $300.
Right. Okay. So I guess my back to my original question, which of those jobs would you say is the best one to get to start off your career?
I think it's site, man. I think research assistant at a site.
Okay.
Here in, again, I'm going to use where I'm at as an example, but Yuma, it's a border town. Actually, people say there's not a talent base here. I say the opposite. There's a huge talent base here. It's all the foreign doctors from Mexico that, these are doctors in Mexico.
Right.
Like doctors. The only job they can get in the U.S. because they want a better life for themselves and their family is like medical assistant.
Right.
And what's that? Like 15 an hour? So you could be a coordinator, you could be a research assistant. So I really do think that the site level is the best place to get started. If you're going to go CRO route, I do think like the route you took is good. I think that requires a bachelor's at least.
Yes.
If you don't have a bachelor's, site level, but even if you do have a bachelor's or even higher, site level is good too.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's really no wrong answer. It just depends on what kind of path you want to take. I just wanted to see what you were thinking.
It depends on their end result. Like if they told me, hey, I want to start a site in 5 years, I'm not going to tell you to go work at a CRO.
Right.
Uh, but if you want to be a CRA, maybe the route you took is good, or also a coordinator route would be good too.
Yep. Yeah. Coordinators definitely. I think you definitely learn more, and
Yeah.
you have more breadth of experience. Um, but I also think project management is good for that too. Even though I wasn't
PM,
necessarily interested in the project management route, I did kind of start there, and I do think you do understand a lot in project management too.
I agree. Actually, glad you brought that up because I rarely bring that up because I don't like that position for me personally. So I don't
Yeah.
talk about. To me, like that's PM would be hell for me. The PMs I work with, they're like amazing, man. I don't know how. Whenever there's a problem, I don't think people understand outside of research. There's three stakeholders, right? There's sites, CROs, and sponsors.
Yep.
Usually, PMs work for the CRO. Whenever there's a problem from any of those stakeholders, the project manager gets called. So
Yep.
you're basically on the phone all the time dealing with problems.
Yep. Yep. And they're in meetings all day too.
All day, and they got to be organized and on top. Yeah, PM is great way to be a generalist also. And a
Yep.
lot of people come from other industries with PM backgrounds,
Yep.
and that's a great transition into research. You could be a PM assistant in research.
Yeah. Um, you're right. Now I haven't. Maybe you've seen this. I haven't seen people that have been PMs in other industries come straight into PM.
Not straight, no.
They have to start kind of at the bottom again. They have to go to that project management assistant role,
Yeah, they do PM assistant, but like within 6 months they can do PM role.
especially if they have like some kind of training program. I know CROs are
Yep,
rolling those out, those PM
yep.
training programs.
The CROs are so understaffed right now.
Yep.
Um, it's never been a better time to be research naive and get a job either. Like I said that about the sites,
Yep.
but it's never been a better time to be research naive. It's just never been a better time, period, if you want to get into research.
Yep. I agree. I have been working with a number of clients over the past few weeks, and they are getting lots of calls back, more than usual, and for jobs that they are underqualified for
Right, right.
right now. So now is a great time to be applying and be aggressive when applying.
Yeah, you can't be picky, and I think the CROs are scrambling to get like their own training programs in order.
Yep.
PPD made a whole new position during the pandemic, remote site monitor,
Yep.
to kind of transition people into CRA, and that's working out well for them. But they're all, even though they are losing people to competitors, so
Yep.
they're basically IQVIA say, okay, come here now that you finish their program, and we'll hire you.
Yep.
But that's the risk that they take to get their 80% or whatever, because all of them are so behind. They're like 3 months back on hiring.
Yep. You're right. So definitely a great time to be applying right now. Now, let me ask you this, because you were I don't know if you're still doing this, but you were a contract CRA, right?
Still doing, it's wrapping up, thankfully. Almost perfect timing. I have two sites for a contract that I have with a small Korean CRO. And then I have my own CRO, which we only do investigator initiated trials. So thankfully, Chris is handling those two studies.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm a contract CRA for two sites, one study now. One, it used to be two study, now it's one study, and they're wrapping down too. They're no longer screening; they're in maintenance mode. So probably within a year, I close out those, and then they might offer me another contract. I mean, they're always needing California. They need West Coast coverage. I just don't know if I would say yes this time if my site's that busy.
Oh, I see. So, how does someone who has, let's say, they have CRA experience, they've been a CRA for a few years, how does someone go about getting contracts?
So again, start with the site level. Like, this is America. You can create your own business and hang up your shingle anywhere. Don't let those non-competes scare you. There's some companies that make force people and scare the hell out of them with non-competes.
Yeah, MedPace is one of them. I can't
There
stand
you
what they
go.
do.
I was about to say them. I wasn't sure if it was them or another one with an M, but yes,
MedPace for
MedPace.
sure.
MedPace is bad. However, if you want to get your start there, fine. Just don't be afraid of their non-compete. Um, but hang up your own shingle while you're doing your job, and go to sites in your area and tell them what you're doing. I'm a CRA. I'm looking to become a contract CRA. I will audit your studies for free, right? For free. If you like it, just pay me on a monthly basis to come in whenever you want. I'll charge X amount of dollars. But I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it so I can have study experience under my contracting gig.
Ah, okay.
And now, after 6 months of that, now you can, you have like contracting CRA experience in addition to your regular CRA experience. So now you can go out and be a contract CRA because nobody wants to take a chance. So you've been a W-2, now you're a contractor. Usually sponsors don't do that, but if you can do both at the same time. So I think the answer is at the site level for a lot of these questions.
Okay, that's very interesting. I haven't actually heard of doing that because that sounds like starting like your own, I guess, auditing business on the side or like FDA
But that's
audit
what it
readiness.
is.
It
At
is.
the end of the day, what's a contract CRA? I mean, that's kind of what you're doing,
That's true. That's true. Um, yeah, that's true. That's interesting. Haven't heard that one before.
I've done
Um,
it. I've done it with. I've just done it with my own sites that I owned, so I didn't need to ask anybody.
okay.
I just put it and I monitored my own sites, and then I put all those studies on there, and then I started getting contract gigs.
Oh, okay. So then who do you reach to? Who do you reach out to after that? After you've got some contract experience under your belt? Because I know a lot of CROs will hire contractors through them. So what
Mm-hmm.
they'll do is they'll bill the sponsor like let's say $200 an hour, but they'll only pay the contract CRA $100 an hour. So they
Right.
eat off that profit difference.
Yeah, they do.
So how can a contract CRA make sure that that they're either negotiating the contracts themselves to get the bulk share of the money, or they're getting all the money being contracted directly to their company?
It's one by one because so basically it boils down to how many calls are you getting or how many emails are you getting, and then you can play them off. Especially in a environment like now, you can have an interview. Let's say you're interviewing me and you need to hire me as a contract CRA, like your sponsor A, and I say, "Hey, ECRG, thank you. I've just been so busy. I just got another interview with sponsor B, and they want me to start tomorrow. So, what do you have in store for me?" I mean, now now it's putting you on the defense, right? Like, oh shoot, I gotta get this guy, or maybe not. But if not, I mean, maybe they'll call your bluff, but maybe it's not a bluff. Like maybe you actually having all those leads. So when you're getting those studies on your resume, that experience from auditing sites, redo your resume, put it out there, start networking with some recruiters on LinkedIn. It's not going to take long for
No,
them to
it's
call
not.
you. It's not. It's You're going to start. I mean, I get offers like all the time. I wouldn't say daily basis, and I'm not even putting anything out there. There's nothing out there except my LinkedIn.
Right. No, yeah. Um, Definitely, I know sponsors are definitely looking for contractors. Companies are always looking for contract CRAs, honestly.
Yes.
They're always looking.
Less
Um,
liability.
yep. Less liability, and you just pay them the money, and you don't have to pay benefits and all this stuff.
No benefits. You could fire them. Well, I mean, there's no firing. You just say contract's over.
Exactly.
Uh,
That happens all the time too.
yep.
Uh, in the beginning of the pandemic, I know that happened. Contractors first to get cut.
Yep. I know that because especially when they switch to remote monitoring, they're like, well, we can have someone else do the remote monitoring now.
Yeah. Um, one of the things that I thought about that I don't think many people are talking about is with all of this remote work, what's to say if everyone's working from home remotely in the industry, right? What's to say that companies won't start just hiring people in other countries to do that exact same work since it's all the same? They're not, as long as you have an internet connection, you can do the work. So what's to say they don't hire someone in, India and pay them, $5 or $10 an hour to do the work?
I think it's I think it's a couple of things because I thought about that too. And I'm pretty sure there will be some regulations around this as well. I mean, they could make regulations for just about anything. I'm generally against regulations, but in a case like this, I think it would be a good thing.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, no matter how remote we are, like during the pandemic, I've never even heard of Zoom prior to March 2020.
Right.
After like June of 2020, it's been my life, including to this day. Like, I'm on Zoom more than I'm on my phone, more than I'm on Instagram. That's like, I live on Zoom.
Right.
But what is that? I have to talk like English. I have to know the culture. I don't think that's so easy with somebody from India. Like, if you get a PI on the other end and you're speaking in an accent that's hard to understand, or you don't understand the culture, or the time difference is off, they're not going to do it. Like, the PI is going to leave. They're going to say, "Oh, I only got like 1 minute for this."
Right.
As opposed to if you or I do it, hey, okay, how much time you need? Okay, 20 minutes is good. I think that's what's going to prevent a lot of that. Besides regulations, I think it's just simple things like language and culture. It's not the same, especially when you're living on these remote platforms.
Yep.
You need to have like better communication skills, not worse.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about the regulation. I think something is definitely going to have to be done there
I think
because,
so, because
I
these
mean,
CROs are just looking to
exactly,
maximize profit for
exactly,
shareholders.
exactly, and
Like,
that could be a big improvement to the bottom line if even if there's all those frustrations you're saying happen, you know, they might end up paying a third or amount as much money to the employees. Um,
yeah. So
it could be a huge difference.
maybe I was ahead of my time, and I've never done this. So guys, don't try to get me in trouble. But I'm trying to Yahoo Finance what IQVIA stock is worth while I'm talking. I've never done this, but I thought of it when I was starting out my site, like 2010,
Uh-huh.
around the same time I started my YouTube channel, and then I decided to pursue that instead of this. But I wanted to create a business where I would hire people in India because I read this book, The World is Flat, around that time, and it
Hmm.
opened my eyes. I'm like, all right, I want to be a part of this. How can I do this in research? So I know sites have to do data entry, and I know they hate it. So I was gonna create a company that hires people in India to enter data for sites, right? And then obviously the coordinator would answer queries, but the initial data entry would be done. And
Right.
I still think it's a brilliant business idea, but there's gonna have to be some regulations, and who knows? Maybe there's some sites doing that already. I
Maybe.
wouldn't doubt it. I would not doubt it.
I've watched. I don't know if you know the Earn Your Leisure podcast, but they're pretty
I
big
heard
in
of it.
business. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one guy came on and he builds his whole company outsourced. So he like actually travels to India. They have whole sections of buildings that are done for this work.
Hmm.
And he was saying they've got like the employees are on the right time schedule and everything. Like
Yeah.
they wake up right on the American time schedule.
They
So
do.
they're like adapting to this American work balance. And I think India's going to be ready. They're actually going to be
I
ready for this.
I think India is doing their own stuff. I think India, yes, they've been known to do that, just like China's been known as the low wage place to get manufacturing. India was the low wage place to get like your IT and stuff
Right.
done.
Right.
I think that both of those countries are creating their own infrastructure. I mean, Sun Pharma is huge. They're from India. There's a big biotech industry booming in both India and China where they're hiring their own people. So pretty soon they're going to tell United States, and I think that's another major macro force that's going to prevent what you're saying.
Okay.
ECRG. It's
Okay.
going to prevent what you're saying, but there's always going to be another country willing to take, like Vietnam is now, like the new China when it comes to manufacturing, or like Mexico, but they're not trained enough yet. So I think if the pandemic taught us anything as Americans, it's we need to start relying on our own infrastructure and start building our own infrastructure. I'm not a Trump supporter by any stretch of the imagination, but I think he did have it right in the sense that we are too dependent, especially on China, for
100%.
manufacturing our drugs. I mean, anything you need, the supply chain, it goes through China or India.
Right.
What happened when they turn that off and say, no, we need that for us?
Right. You can't get it. So we don't make anything in this country anymore. And yeah,
That's
for
right.
sure.
So globalism's not all good either.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us, Dan. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up here. You've been with us for almost an hour. I can't believe that.
Wow. Wow, wow.
So, if people haven't heard about you, I don't know how they couldn't have heard about you by now. Where can they hear your stuff or learn more about you and what kind of things you offer?
It's possible, but yeah, just go to YouTube. look up my name, Dan Sfera, and then I have my blog, theclinicaltrialsguru.com. And I have all the other social platforms too. I'm trying to grow my TikTok. If you want to
Okay.
help me out, go follow me on there. I think TikTok's going to become important.
In research?
I think so because the next generation. I already got a few people like, hey, I want to learn more. So they're like CRC, CRA Academy leads, but like the younger generations, yeah, they're next, and they're going to
Okay.
be the next in-house CRAs pretty soon.
Okay. So you would exchange someone who could edit videos and put them on TikTok for you for some clinical research experience?
If they live here, yes.
They have to live in Arizona.
You have to live in Yuma, Arizona, because I want you to be. I want to eventually hire you here at my site.
Okay.
Is
I see.
basically
I
what it
see. I
boils
see.
down to.
All right.
And TikTok, you gotta be like in your face. You can't do it like on a Zoom. No one's gonna watch that TikTok. You gotta like be there
Oh, I
filming
see.
it.
I see. I see. So you can't just rip videos from YouTube and edit them
No,
and put them on
I mean
TikTok.
you could. It's better than nothing, but no, because I want you to be here so that I could hire you. Because I will need coordinators at some point here. I can't do it all
Right.
myself.
Right. 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 Okay.
And don't
Um.
move here. Don't move here just because you heard this podcast. You're not going to guilt trip me into hiring you. That would be terrible. Terrible idea. What if my PI says, Dan, I changed my mind? You're going to risk your entire future off of somebody you don't know? Don't do that, guys.
Okay. Yeah. So don't move to Yuma, Arizona. Only if you live in
No,
Yuma, Arizona. Hit up Dan
that's right.
and tell him you can offer some services.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks, Dan, for sharing this time with us. Um, and yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, ECRG. I know I say this every time. It's very hard to not say your name.